If you're one of the subscribers I picked up in the last 2 months since the Drowsy video came out, you might be thinking, I guess that weird video essay guy decided that video was the best thing they've ever done and moved on from YouTube. And to that I have 3 responses. 1, my pronouns are they, them, and I do ask that you not refer to me as guy. 2, I also think the Drowsy video is quite good, but I've already moved on to thinking about the upcoming season 3 of videos, which I also hope will be quite good. And 3, you clearly didn't watch my Winnie-the-Pooh video through to the end. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it. I like how that one turned out. But to summarize, at the end of that video, I announced that I would be working on my own stage adaptation of Winnie-the-Pooh in July of 2022. As such, I'm currently on a hiatus from video essay content until August, so I can fully focus on being both producer and playwright for that upcoming reading. That said, I did promise in that video that I would provide updates on how the adaptation was going, and after 2 months, I do have quite a few updates to share. So this video is going to be split into 2 parts. The first, where I talk about where I landed in adapting the book and how my adaptation compares to the other ones I discussed in that video, and part 2 about the practical things of the reading and getting tickets and things like that. Part 1, the adaptation. In my December 2021 video, The Many Adaptations of Winnie-the-Pooh, I traced the stage history of A.A. Milne's Winnie-the-Pooh through 11 different adaptations of it, from 1930 to 2021. The purpose of that video wasn't necessarily to pick my favorite adaptations or to determine which ones were best, although I will still defend that these 3 are the most dramatically interesting ones. It was more to showcase how all of the adaptations of allegedly the same book could be so wildly deviant from each other. Some of them, like the Robbins or Dennis adaptations, stuck really close to the text of Milne's book. Others, like Knapp or Rockefeller, used the book only as a jumping-off point to tell an original story with these characters and settings. Studying all those adaptations of the Pooh books ended up being really helpful as a precursor to writing my own adaptation, as I had nearly a dozen case studies where a playwright had to make strong creative decisions about what scenes to keep and what tone to set. The adaptation I'll be debuting in July is indebted to all these adaptations that came before. That said, and I apologize if this makes me sound like a pretentious collegiate director about to ruin Into the Woods, I decided to take things in a slightly different direction. That makes it sound like I'm doing some weird, edgy version of the book. I'm not. I'm just doing it's a straight shot adaptation of the book. In the first video, I created these summary cards for each play, indicating which chapters they used in the main plot and tracking a few of the common tropes, such as Rabbit's friends and relations or the song Coddleston Pie. Incidentally, neither of those 2 is in this play. The summary card for my adaptation looks like this. The main plot is taken from chapters 6, 7, 8, and 9, with small snippets of scenes added from pretty much every chapter of the book. Nothing is included from The House at Pooh Corner, seeing as it doesn't enter the public domain until 2024, so I legally can't do so. No Tigger, for that same reason, but also, in a shock to me, no Owl either. I didn't expect at the outset to trim anyone out of the cast, but once I settled on a main plot, I realized that Owl's actions within those chapters felt incidental to the larger narrative. That said, some of his traits found their way into other characters. His position of higher status in the forest, in particular, was folded into my characterization of Rabbit. Rabbit has many moments of talking down to people, Pooh and Piglet at the outset, and then Kanga and Roo in a big way. But that's another major adjustment. The lion's share of the new scene work not rooted in the book is about building the relationship between Rabbit and Roo. In the book, we only get 2 lines right at the end of chapter 7 to indicate they became friends after Roo was captured. "You can't be Roo," Christopher Robin said, "because I've just seen Roo playing at Rabbit's house." And every Tuesday, Roo spent the day with his great friend Rabbit. In my script, we see that bond form in real time as Roo counters Rabbit's cynicism with open-heartedness, and Rabbit slowly begins to grow more protective of Roo. This is pushed to its limit later on because, in this play, Piglet and Kanga are still separated from Rabbit and Roo when the rain comes, from chapter 9. So, the 2 mismatched pairs have to navigate the ensuing flood together, but I don't want to give away too much of the plot. Needless to say, while I'm basing my story largely on those 4 chapters I mentioned before, I'm taking an approach closer to Betty Knapp's method of building a new story from pieces of existing ones. Small details from the book have been altered so each story beat is one segment of a larger plot that runs through the entire play, rather than the episodic model of Slade and Robbins or the interwoven model of Durand and Sergel. Examples of this include Pooh's honeypot boat, the Floating Bear, later being repurposed by him as his gift for Eeyore, the very useful pot. Or Piglet's gift, the red balloon, being something that Kanga gave him at the end of his bath, back when she was pretending he was Roo. Small things like that. Stylistically, there's no real world that Christopher Robin goes back to at the end of the play, nor a voiceover giving narration. The play is framed as the 6 animal characters telling the story to Christopher Robin, and reminding him of the adventures they had together in the past. With the narrator dialogue divided amongst the cast, there's quite a lot of book text in this adaptation, to the point that it almost becomes a sort of reader's theater style to listen to. That can be complicated to explain, so here's a brief teaser from a digital read of the play I did earlier this week with some invited actors.
There's just one thing, Rabbit. I was talking to Christopher Robin, and he said that a kanga was
generally regarded as one of the fiercer animals.
I am not frightened of fierce animals in the ordinary way, but it is well known that if one of the fiercer animals is deprived of its young, it becomes
as fierce as 2 of the fiercer animals.
In which case, aha, is perhaps a foolish thing to say.
Piglet, you haven't any pluck.
It's hard to be brave when you're only a very small animal.
It is because you are a very small animal that you will be useful in the adventure before us.
Oh.
Piglet was so excited at the thought of being
useful
that he forgot to be frightened anymore and could hardly sit still.
For he was so eager to begin being useful at once.
What about me? I suppose I shan't be useful.
Never mind, Pooh. Another time, perhaps.
Why, without Pooh, the adventure would be impossible.
Oh!
As Piglet tried not to look disappointed, Pooh said proudly to himself,
Impossible without me. That's sort of bad.
Then Rabbit, who had been writing very busily, turned to Pooh and Piglet and said,
Now, listen, all of you.
in a captainish sort of voice,
I have devised a very reasonable plan to capture Baby Roo.
The inspiration for this structure was actually this video of an infant leading a dance class. To me, this is the perfect encapsulation of the world of the books, one in which the person who is least able to advocate for themselves is the person that everyone else gives their attention to, which, in turn, grants that person the agency and freedom that everyone else has. The animal characters are all adults, telling the story to a child, and, in doing so, validating his actions as important to the story. It's my intention that this play can give the audience hope that a community like this is still possible in our time. Speaking of telling the story to a child, the question of who this adaptation is for has come up when discussing it. I've gotten questions about whether this play is intended as theater for young audiences, or TYA, and my response is, if a TYA company produces it, then yes, definitely. But I don't feel that it's exclusively TYA. My comparison would be Alice in Wonderland. There are certainly TYA adaptations of the Alice books, which are intentionally targeted towards children, and there are definitely adaptations that are not intended for children. And then there's the middle ground, the adaptations which children could certainly come see, but which are targeted at a more general family demographic. That's where this Pooh adaptation lives. Or, another example, my Winnie-the-Pooh has the same target demographic as The Sound of Music. Could kids come see it? Yes, definitely. Is it intended for children? Probably not. Is it TYA? I mean, technically not? At a certain point, this does become a marketing question more than a stylistic one, but the point is, my adaptation is intended for all audiences, from ages 3 to 123. There are moments that will resonate with the boundless imagination of a child, and there are other moments that may resonate better with a 20-something depressed queer person. How would I know what that's like? It's not important. At the end of the day, my goal was to craft an adaptation that honored A.A. Milne's characters and setting, and even used a lot of his plot and dialogue, while still standing on its own as an inherently theatrical work. It's a 7-actor adaptation with specific language included indicating that any character can be played by any performer, of any gender, age, race, or ability. 96 years on from its publication, the residents of Christopher Robin's forest have become archetypes who can map onto any performer. I hope this adaptation will open the doors to let everyone see Christopher Robin and Pooh as their friends. Part 2. The reading. This play's development would not have been possible without the help of some very talented collaborators in the theater community. The 6 artists who joined me for the developmental workshops in March and April, the volunteer actors who have been helping me to read the play digitally throughout May, and everyone I have excitedly texted about this adaptation throughout the last few months. I'm pleased to say I'm bringing 2 excellent artists on board for the reading in July, both with plenty of experience in the Chicago storefront theater community, director Lauren Katz and stage manager Nicholas Hittner-Cunningham. The cast for the July reading is still to be determined, although I can say that it's going to be an invited cast rather than an open audition. If you've been following along on the Little Brain Theater Instagram account, you probably already know some of the details, but to recap them here. The stage reading of Winnie-the-Pooh will be performing July 14th through 16th, 2022 at the Den Theater in Chicago. Only 4 performances, 7:30 p.m. on Thursday and Friday, 2:30 and 7:30 p.m. on Saturday. Tickets will go live on the Den Theater's website on June 2nd. All tickets are pay what you can with a base price of $1. And I would like to personally urge you to buy the $1 ticket. You do not need to feel guilted into paying any more for tickets. It is a staged reading. If I could make it free, I would. The show runs approximately 90 minutes, no intermission. There will be a talkback following each performance to get feedback about the adaptation, things that you liked, things that were confusing, thoughts about the ideal audience. Though it's a reading and is not a fully staged production, you can totally bring kids. They will have the most brutally honest feedback, and that will really help the play as it continues to develop. And obviously, vaccines and masks are still required. I think that's mostly it. I genuinely don't think I have a big enough following on YouTube that this video is going to bring any of my video essay audience into the theater who don't already know me personally, but at the very least, this is a marketing push. Following the reading in July, I plan to take a short break before getting back into the video essay game in August. I can't say what the first video of Season 3 is going to be, but I can say that it's a show that you've definitely heard of and you definitely haven't seen. Until then, I hope to see you at the Den Theater, July 14th through 16th. Have a good day.